You'll see America's favorite sport on WHBQ television.
Hello again, everybody. It is June the 23rd, 2026. Randy Hills, live as live can be, from the world headquarters of Talking Memphis Wrestling, in the place that Randy Hills started his story. I'm live from my hometown of Jonesboro, Arkansas. Now, hello everybody. Hope everybody's doing well tonight as we're going at it again with Talking Memphis Wrestling. Now, before we bring in the co-host of this show, I wanted to say this. Did you notice how I opened the show? Did you notice how I always open the show? I say, hello again, everybody. This is Randy Hills. Now, where I got that is for years and years and years and years, it was yellow again, everybody. Lance Russell's version of hello again, everybody. We're all ready to go with Championship Wrestling, USWA Wrestling. We're ready to rock and roll. That was Lance Russell. Now, everybody gets the same idea. I listened to my good friend Tony Richards. I listened to his Time Tunnel podcast. And how does he start every single show? He starts it by saying, hello again, everybody. Hey to Frank, hey to Richard, hello to Al Tuttle. What is going on, everybody? Thomas is in the house, and James is in the house, and Calvin Lindsay Jr. is in the house. And I'll tell you who is not in the house. The person not in the house tonight, everybody's saying hello to, but he's not here to say hello to, and that is producer Adam Dunn. That's the reason I screwed up on the countdown in the opening today, because I'm producing, I'm hosting, I'm writing, I'm taking care of the whole thing today. But never fear, Randy's here. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not depressed because Michael's not here yet. He'll join 45 minutes to an hour into the show. I'm not depressed. Adam is not here today, even though he makes it so much easier for me. But it is what it is. But I, even though Michael will be a little late, the OG of this show might be a little under the weather tonight, just like he was last week. He might not be wearing a suit. He might, Joe Mobley, not be wearing, might be a little, hadn't shaved in a month or so, but that's okay. The person of the panel that I absolutely can't do without, hate it when he has to pay some bills and go take care of some business, but he's the type of guy from the Jerry Jarrett mode of life and later on the Randy Hills mode of life. It doesn't matter if it's raining, sleeting, the flu, a sickness, whatever. He is always in the house. And again, Joe Mobley in the house and PJ's in the house. And again, I am solo as far as production, but the person to make the hot tag. And before I think I'll wait a few seconds before we get his first take. And I have an anniversary to talk about in the world of professional wrestling. It's not on the notes because I just saw it today. Something that happened on this very same day many years ago, about 30 years ago, as a matter of fact. But before we get to it, from Birmingham, freaking Alabama, he has a cool hat on. He has a cool headset on. Yellow Pat Trammell, welcome to Talking Memphis Wrestling for your hellos, your whatevers, and your first take. Here we go.
Well, hello everybody. I hadn't shaved recently. I've been a little under the weather, and I got that about straightened, and now my back's give out on me. So I'm on hanging here as long as I can. But I'm excited because I get to see my good friend Shane Russell in the next couple of days. I'm going to Pensacola on my annual trip with my classmates from school, and Shane and I always make a point to have a beer together at the Wisteria Tavern in Pensacola, Florida. So I'm looking forward to do that.
I think I might be on his shit list, so you better not mention my name, okay?
Well, I'll get behind all that then.
All right. So James Davis, 5613 says, "What's up, Pat?" I think you just told the people what's up.
Yeah. Ow. My back's down. My back's down, but most other things are up. So we're going to do the best we can do.
I think I will take that graphic off with the Talking Memphis Wrestling because that took up too much of the screen. Now it says Randy Hills and it says Pat Trammell. So we're good to go. Are you curious about the anniversary we're going to talk about today?
I am.
You have no clue.
I have no clue. I did not. Actually, I was trying to get everything hooked up, and as you know, I'm moving a little slow, so I didn't get to dive deep into the notes. So I'm a little bit winging it. So I'll learn with everybody else. So I'm excited about it.
Hey, that wasn't on the notes. I did the notes Saturday, and I didn't figure out about the anniversary today, and I am going to look and see because I want to see if anybody is guessing here. Lucian says, "Oh, Lucian from Kentucky is in Wisconsin." What?
Logan, Wisconsin. I used to go to Oshkosh every year, Lucian.
All right, that's pretty cool. As Talking Memphis Wrestling, we'll continue part 2 on bookers. We just got through a few last week, and we will have some information there. And Pat, I'm sure we'll have some questions, and I'm sure the audience will. Are you ready for the anniversary? On this day, on June the 23rd, 1996, it was at the WWF's King of the Ring, one of the most famous wrestling promos in the history of wrestling promos that led to the Attitude Era and one of the biggest eras and biggest runs in the history of wrestling. On this day, June 23rd, 1996, Pat Trammell, Stone Cold, was being interviewed by Doc Hendricks, better known to us as Freebird Michael Hayes, and he said, "Talk about your Psalms, talk about John 3:16, Will Austin 3:16, I just whoop your ass. Stone Cold Steve Austin. So, as a churchman just like me, when what I thought at the time, making a mockery of my favorite Bible verse of all Bible verses, but I'm also a wrestling promoter, and good God Almighty, they knew they had something because they showed up at Monday Night Raw, Pat, the next day after this event. And you know what happened? 15,000 people had Austin 316 signs. What do you think about that anniversary, and how big of a deal did you think it was at a time? And I don't think that you will argue at all, whether you like it or hate it or whatever. I don't think you argue with the fact that's one of the most iconic promos in the history of wrestling. Here's
Well,
Patrick.
there's not no question about that, and I think it was Lanny Poffo. He he uh he threw it out. Is that right?
No, he whooped Jake the Snake Roberts.
Jake the Snake. Okay, okay, okay. Jake had taken something from Brother Love or something like that, and I've seen a I've seen interviews with Austin where he says it just came out the top of his head. But he sold. I think Jr. said he made $1 million one quarter in his gimmick percentage from those shirts.
That's pretty cool. And this business is always about money. No doubt about that in the world. You know what? I have to say a little shout out to my best friend, my brother from another mother. You know who I'm talking about? The great Randy Dandy. Randy West is in the house and he's
Yes,
watching the
sir.
show today. And it's great to see Randy here, Pat. Do you have a first take today?
Not particularly. I'm kind of excited to delve more deeply into what we've been talking about, and go from there. I've been I think just for everybody's information, I have a this is about my once every 18 or 36 month back issue, and it comes from being an ex motorcycle motocross racer and an ex um, concrete mixer. So about once a year, I get down in my back, as we say in Alabama. So I've been kind of worked through that today.
I think right now, before we get into this subject, and it is a very interesting subject we have today, is we're going to deep dive on the Bookers. I'll go through who we covered last week real quick. But right now, I want to go to another graphic, and I'd like for you to speak on that because it's in your home state. And look at this graphic. How about that?
There we
The
go.
legendary wrestling voice Michael St. John will be in Huntsville, Alabama for Southern States Wrestling's debut in Huntsville, Alabama, Friday night, June the 26th. The bell time, the opening match starts at 7:30. Michael's radio station, Fun Radio 92.7 and 104.9 is one of the sponsors, and you see all the other sponsors on the screen. It is the Super Summer Sizzler Tour, and it's in Huntsville, Alabama. I know Michael is going to be there. He is going to have a microphone in tow. And about the geography of Alabama, Pat, I'm not familiar with it. How far is Huntsville, Alabama from Birmingham, Alabama, where you reside with your lovely wife and your lovely kids that come in part time?
Come in and out. Uh, we're about uh, we're about 100 miles, I'd say. A
Two
little
hours.
less. Yeah, about an hour and a half. Hour and a half.
Well, if your back's not any better, Pat, you don't need to go.
Well, I just realized this when I saw that. I go on and well, I'm going to see Shane this weekend
Shane
in,
Russell.
in Pensacola,
Okay.
and that's this weekend. So, or is that this coming weekend?
That's Friday night.
Yeah, no, I can't be there. I'll be with Shane and my golfing buddies.
Drinking beer with Shane Russell.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, still don't think you should drive. I think you shouldn't go this year because of the fact you're a hurt man. You're an injured man.
So I shouldn't drive south. I should drive north.
You shouldn't drive anyway. You should
Well,
come in bed.
well, well, we'll see when it. I'm better today than I was yesterday. I made a strategic mistake. Hey, Gail, good, good to see you. I made a strategic mistake. And not that anybody wants to hear about my medical issues, but I've got a hardback recliner that I lean back in on a heating pad. And I woke up about 2 this morning and I went and lay down on the couch, and I should not have done that. So I woke up all twisted up, which wasn't good. So
Did you not have to go to work today?
I could not go to work today. I work from home today. I know I couldn't. No, I wouldn't. I could not get in and out of a car today. So
Well, make sure, give me the hot tag, give me the thing. If it starts getting painful, Michael will be here hopefully about 45 minutes to an hour into the show.
well,
Show.
I'm probably going to be standing up a little bit when I'm off screen to stretch out. So, but I'll get through it. I'll get through it.
Pat Trammell is with us on Talking Memphis Wrestling. It is the 23rd day of the month of June. July's almost here, Pat Trammell.
Yes, sir.
We're going to get into talking about booking, and booking, of course, is very important. A lot of people these days say you write TV or the head writer of a wrestling thing. We never use that term. You know how we describe it when we're going to sit down and book TV?
No, sir.
Always. It was it's time to lay out TV. It's time to book TV. It's time to lay out TV. It's time to book TV. It was never, nothing about it was anything to do with writing TV. That changed, Pat, when Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett both went about the same time to the WWF. Jarrett never came back. Lawler did, and he tried to come back for most TVs. But that's when I first heard the term, and I would say probably in 96, 95, 96, or it was after he had started there, and I was booking, so it could have been 94, even as early as 94. But the term writing TV, the whole concept of scripting promos, that sort of thing didn't happen. So your opinion, Pat, on the term writing TV, the concept, and how do you consider it? Do you consider it booking TV, laying out TV, or are you up with the young folks today and say what they say, writing TV? That always offends me.
Well, I understand that. Times are different. I would be curious to know. I'd like to go and kind of observe a week in the life of AEW or WWE or whatever. One of those. There's a show that's been on, and I don't know the name of it. Booker T's on there, and they're training young guys.
Right.
And
I think Bully Ray's on there too. I don't know the name of it either.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that you used to grab somebody and say, give me 12 minutes, cut a promo, go over, and get back here. And I don't think it's that way now. I think everything is so rehearsed today. And it sells. All right, they've made more money in wrestling now than ever in any history, just not as many people. So for this day and time it works, but a little bit of the craft is taken out of it.
I agree with that 100%. And now as King of Kingsport, and don't worry, Bo, you came late, but I have already plugged. He got mad, and I got mad back at him because he'd sent me something, and I had already showed it, and then he had to pile in on the deal. I plug your shit, Bo, all the time and always have. But the more you on the show, you say, "Oh, plug this, plug that." That's and so ORH. That is a big incentive for me not to do it again. Pat did the run through, Pat, because so Bo won't get his freaking feelings hurt. And whether I could care less if Bo's going to be there, but I'm tickled to death. It's a price of admission by itself. Pat, again, let Bo hear you put over this Huntsville card coming up Friday night at the JC Community Building on Airport Road Southwest in Huntsville, Alabama. Go ahead and put it over before he cries us a river.
Well, hello, Bo. It's okay to be late. It's good to see you too. I don't know what's up, Randy, but it is. But anyway, we are looking forward to Michael being in Huntsville, Alabama this Friday night. Can you put it back up, Randy,
Yeah,
please?
let me get to it. Again, I am producing this show today because Adam Dunn is working somewhere else and in his hotel room, his internet's not working enough to produce this show, and there it's put up again.
There we go. Michael St. John live, Super Summer Sizzler. The community building on Airport Road. Airport Road is conveniently off the right outside of Huntsville, convenient to the interstates. Bell time 7:30. Really, really looking forward to it.
All right. As a matter of fact, I want to talk about my good friend Crazy Gail, and Crazy Gail is in the house. She says hello, Randy, my friend, and then she says hello to Randy West, and then she has a question for Randy West. Randy West, remember me? Of course, Gail, I can answer that question. Bo's in the house. Al Tuttle, my great friend, and he is in the house as well. And so we appreciate it very much right here on this show today. So, man, and Bo, as long as Pat can get out of bed, Pat Trammell has already mentioned that he's certainly going to show up. And you're on the screen now, Pat. You're going to show up if all's well. You'll be in Huntsville.
Yeah, Bo, I was telling Randy I've thrown my back out, which I do about somewhere between 18 and 36 months every year. So we'll see how ow, sorry, we'll see how the rest of the week goes. So
Big Southern States Wrestling, and that's the big debut Friday night for sure. Eye of the Watcher is in the house, and we appreciate that very much. Talking about bookers and the ones we talked about last week, Pat, we are going to go through and then we are going to leave off where we stopped. And certainly we started in the mid 50s and it was a hell of a run. And the booker at the time and the promoter was Buddy Fuller, Edward Welch, and he was the mastermind behind probably certainly at the time because it was in Russwood Park Baseball Stadium. Sputnik Monroe and Billy Wick with a special referee. Billy Wicks and Sputnik, man, history, history, history. Buddy Fuller was the brains between that. Also, we have to talk about his replacement when he was fired by his father and Nick Gulas. Roy Welch took over the booking. Roy Welch, Nick Gulas, and Buddy Fuller. Now, after that, became uh, as we talked last week, and everybody had a vote. Jerry Jarrett, the best booker that Memphis ever had, and we certainly talked about that as well. Jerry Jarrett's great booking, and certainly want to talk about Nick's end of the territory. Nick had a lot to do with it, as did other people. Your friend that you visited in Nashville, Lynn Rossi, was booker not ever on the Memphis end that I know of, but also he booked a lot on the Nashville, Chattanooga, Birmingham end, and they did memorable stuff as well. Jerry Jarrett, late 60s, started booking. Jerry, of course, born in 1942, passed away Valentine's Day 2023. I guess out of everybody in Memphis that booked the most, had the most turns, certainly if you add up the time, Jerry Jarrett ahead of everybody. And probably it's the number of times he's done it. I think number two would be Jerry the King Lawler. Robert Fuller had one of the shortest tenures. Bill Dundee in the office for years and years and years had a record breaking run. Mid South Wrestling for Cowboy Bill Watts. Bill, more times than not in Memphis, was assistant booker under Jerry Jarrett, but he was also booker solo at times as well. In 1985, they went outside the territory for a booker, and Tom Renesto booked there. At the point now, we're going to freeze Pat because we mentioned all those last week, but we have good numbers right now on Talking Memphis Wrestling. I just ran through that very quickly. So just kind of give your opinion of the names we talked about, and coming up after that, will then continue the list and get into the national bookers as well. Here's Pat Brown.
Well, it's interesting, and it was interesting to me, and it's in his book to hear Jerry talk about how he, kind of got into the booking game, and I think it's probably not that unusual. I told the story last week of Floyd Patterson carrying Joe Lewis's uh, um, not trunks, but his robe out of the ring when he was younger, and that's basically what Jerry did for Roy Welch. He drove him to Memphis, and they talked booking. And at some point, Roy said, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And according to Jerry, by the time he told the boys that Jerry was the booker here, he had been booking it for almost 9 months, and they would just do it riding back on the car. So it was an apprenticeship program, if you will, like welders used to go through, and electricians and everybody else, and it worked very, very well. And I'm assuming I never knew I never knew Nick's, or have never heard what Nick's responsibility as a booker was for anywhere. And Michael may be able to tell us that. My assumption always was it was Mr. Welch. And then, when Lynn had his accident and wasn't as active, I think he started doing some of the booking. And so that's the way I understood that to be. Somebody had asked about Ole in Georgia, and yeah, Ole.
We'll get into that, and let's hold up on that. We'll
All
get
right,
later.
all right, that's fine.
Bo James says Randy Hales was wrestling on TV in Memphis when they drew that big house at the baseball park in the 50s. Yes, it was on Channel 5 for a couple of months. Then it went to Channel 13. And I want to catch up
I
on
think he's talking about what is Billy Wicks
Sputnik, which
Sputnik.
I mentioned that program a little bit. Yes, they were on TV. As a matter of fact, one of the first announcers was Big Jack Eaton, who later did Memphis State football and basketball, and is a great thing. And folks, topic, I'll deal for the most part with comments about the topic, and we're talking about bookers, talking about booking and bookers. And James asked, did Jeff Jarrett ever get involved in booking? He, from his rookie year, would come to the office every day and sit with me and Jerry Jarrett and part of that. After I left, when I was mad at Jerry Jarrett, he got more involved and would write TV from time to time, but had a big part of it. His first full-time solo gig was booking TNA wrestling and did a real good job of that. And um, I'll answer Richard Hood's question real quick. It's a simple thing. Randy, in your opinion, what does it take to be a good booker? Somebody that's being able to draw a house. That's exactly what it is. Somebody that knows the territory, the market you're in, because Texas is different than Tennessee, Georgia's different than Florida, and it's all different. I gave a list last week, Pat, of the different duties of a booker. A booker, know your territory, know your audience, and know your talent, and being able to evolve and to change and to keep up with the time. I think it was important to know the mainstream, know what's cool, not just in wrestling, know the cool music, know the fashion trends, know what the teenage boys like, but also know what the teenage girls like. And in the Memphis territory, certainly, I think I can give you examples. Bill Dundee, certainly. Teenage girls like Bill Dundee. Teenage girls like the Rock and Roll Express. Teenage girls like the Fabulous Ones. It's a complicated job with a lot of duties. A lot of it's administrative. A lot of it, and the most important part of it, is it's creative and putting down, laying out a television and booking cards that the people want to see. The bottom line is you need to draw money. So that's not a quick explanation, or that's a quick explanation, but does that make sense, Pat?
It does. But Donnie asked an interesting question I'm curious about as well, and I know it's a very very fluid thing you do. But how long do you look into the future?
It is different per territory because, like the WWE and a lot of different territories, mainly run monthly towns. So they would get ahead for that. Now, on a weekly territory, which a lot of territories were, Southeastern and most of Nick Goulas's towns, the Jarrett towns, Georgia Championship Wrestling, they were all weekly towns. And I think most of the North Carolina Jim Crockett promotions was. And so basically, you could know you do a TV and it plays, and then you go to the house maybe the next day and you know whether that TV works or not. So you can change it in a week. You pretty much know where you want to go, but you would change week to week based on, you might not change your main event program, but you might have people on there that stunk the joint out, exposed the town, and you wouldn't book them anymore. So on the weekly territory, you could fix things quicker, Pat. And so I kind of would always know what my main event would be for 4 to 6 weeks, but very flexible and could
And I know it could change depending on who's hot, who's young, who's whatever. But how many angles would be running at one time generally? Two or three?
one major angle and 2 to 3 more. So
Okay.
sometimes as much as four. And then you have like a personal issue that may not can be considered a may not consider a angle, but have a personal issue that you would just talk about on TV and build something, or maybe you did a disqualification between Pat and Michael this past Monday. Well, next Monday night, a return match, it would be no disqualification. It uh, just depend on that. It just depends on what happened there. Any of the other bookers that I talked about, just minutes ago that you would like to talk about? Are you ready to continue and talk about ones that we haven't talked about in
Yeah,
this?
let's talk about some new folks.
All right. I think at this point, we ended up with Tom Renesto. Here's somebody that was one of the most creative people that I'd ever seen in the wrestling business. So enthusiastic and so good. Eddie Hot Stuff Gilbert. And he had a few, maybe two, maybe three. He had a few booking runs here. He also was a booker for Continental Wrestling once Ron Fuller sold out, and he was booking for there as well. And I believe he was a part in the later, after the territories died, he was a part of the booking committee for WCW. Eddie Hot Stuff Gilbert. Just I think I would just say that Eddie's reign as a talent was in and out, just like booking. He would never didn't get frustrated. Whether I can tell you reasons to get frustrated as a booker, mad at the owner of the company, mad about his pay, different things. I don't know if that's the case with Eddie or not. I don't know very well because I wasn't in the territory when he booked the territory. But Eddie Gilbert, known for, of course, pitching the idea of running Lawler over in the car. He was creative. He was out of the box. He was a great interview and a great talent as well. And I think if we wouldn't have lost Eddie too early, I think I would have liked to seen Eddie Gilbert as he moved up in age be a booker. At that point, it would be in a national wrestling company because that's all that was left at that point. Ended up at that point. I would have liked to seen him booking somewhere or part of a quote quote creative team somewhere and not wrestle.
Yeah.
You can do it, wrestle and book, and certainly a lot of people have done it successfully. But at this point, as wrestling evolved, I don't think that was a good idea. So, quick thoughts on Eddie Gilbert.
Well, gone too soon, and like a lot of those guys, just live fast, die young, leave a good-looking corpse. It's unfortunate because my understanding is that I never met him. Obviously, I met his dad. Obviously he had. I'm told he had a special talent for it. And growing up in it, obviously I could build a fence because I grew up in it. But it's just this business eats its young, and particularly with substances and stuff like that. James brings up something interesting. Um, Randy, I know Dutch booked a lot in Puerto Rico, and did he ever book Memphis?
Yes, he did, and we'll get on. We'll get to that a little later on in the show as we have graphics production. We'll get to that a little later on. And Alexander says if Eddie Gilbert didn't die in '95, would would he book WCW? He was a part of the team. WWE, he would have been a part of the team. And he started booking Eastern Championship Wrestling before he left, and Paul Lee turned it into ECW. So at that point, I don't know if he would have gone back there. And uh, I'm looking at these comments, and I have a format, and we're going to stick with the format here as well. But Eddie Gilbert, Pat, was a smart guy to the wrestling business, and I would have hired him in a minute. At a time period when I wasn't around the territory because I left. Why did I leave, Pat, in '89? I tell it every week. Who was I mad at?
Jerry Jarrett.
Absolutely. You can't understand why in the world, since he's your hero, would anybody be mad at Jerry Jarrett? But I was mad at Jerry Jarrett more than once. He was mad at me too, let's be fair. By the way, Randy West is in the house tonight, and we appreciate Randy West being in the house watching this about booking. Eric Embry was a I give him a plus 80 times for the job he did booking world class wrestling in Dallas. And then, along with Jerry, when they started the USWA in Dallas, Eric was great. However, when Devon Eric's ex Nate Jarrett and Eric Embry came to Tennessee, became the booker here, and, even though he grew up in the Kentucky area, somewhere around, and watched Memphis wrestling, I don't think his stuff fit in Memphis. And it might be because of the fact there's very few out bookers. Jerry Jarrett was one, and I was another that was on. And Eddie Gilbert and Lawler had a good relationship too. But a lot of times it just wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work because you have to know this around Lawler is nobody books Jerry Lawler better than Jerry Lawler. No doubt about it. Nobody books Jerry Lawler better than Jerry Lawler, including Jerry Jarrett. And Jerry Jarrett always would talk to Lawler and get input there. I would too, but big time. And I think Lawler never had an issue of working under Jerry Jarrett. Never had an issue because it was his decision working under me. Absolutely no problem at all. No problem at all. And he was great as well. So, what's your thoughts? Anything at all you can add to Eric Kimball?
Well, I had good conversations with Jerry about that period one time, and he said, when he got there, Eric was basically living in the sportatorium, and was there every day, and he said, and as you know, the issue with world class wrestling was substance with the Von Erich boys, and he said, Eric knew how to book them and also how to get them ready to wrestle. And and look, there's never, and I realize what I'm saying here, okay? I don't think there's ever been anybody as over anywhere, anytime, anywhere as the Von Erich boys were in Dallas. I mean, if you don't believe me, schools let out for David's funeral, and they sold out Texas Stadium for the worst wrestling one of them to win the world championship. So, you say that's not easy to book, but it's not really. It really it there are challenges with that too, particularly with what the boys were involved with. But he grew up in that territory and understood it, and I just don't think it translated very well over here.
And he
But
did a very good job, excellent job for sure. There's no doubt about it when he booked there in the state of Texas for sure. And the people the fans loved, hated him when he was a heel, then he switched babyface. And I think he was drawing more money at the end of world class than the Von Erichs because the Von Erichs with all the issues that you talked about earlier and the deaths and the heartbreak and the people got down on the Von Erichs. They uh, really did as well. And now we are going.
were you around when you were doing that the bus trips from Dallas to Memphis and all that?
No.
Okay, Michael was here, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. That was one of the contentions that I left for is because Jarrett had left uh, and was all high. And I understand that he got a deal with some big TV revenue, but so he would spend most of his time there and took a lot of the talent. And I just I just felt that Memphis was being treated like the stepchild, and it was just a bad situation on the Memphis end. And I'm thinking, I am glad that I was gone before they started renting the bus. They were flying everybody at first, but Jerry's not going to do that long.
Well, I don't know that you can and make it economically feasible.
And I don't think the price was that bad. And I don't know what the I don't think I really don't think the price. Uh, I don't know what the price of the bus would have been, but you could probably uh, fly to Dallas and back for $100 from Memphis. I think you could at the time. Would you think?
Randy, the airline world has changed so much today. You could get to Dallas today because although Memphis has American, and so you could get to that hub. I don't know if Memphis has Southwest today, and I just don't know how it was at the time. I could not get a direct flight to Tampa or Memphis in 1989. I know that.
Memphis Bookers, and we'll get to the national bookers in a little bit. We're trying to go by the format, and I know people's mentioning this person or that person, and certainly at the end of the show, if I forgot somebody, then you can mention it. I'm just not breaking away from this format at all. And so, of the Memphis Bookers, I'm not saying this guy was the best. I think it was the right guy to book the wrestling the way that it had evolved to. I think it's the right person. Certainly not the best booker. Certainly the best booker at the time that he was booking, without a doubt. The best choice there, without a doubt. Your friend, without a doubt. Long time ago, it started with Eddie Marlin. Eddie Marlin looking at my friend Randy Wade, and that is me, and that's where my relationship with Eddie Marlin started. And there is the end of the relationship. This picture, Pat, was taken probably a month, maybe 2 months before Eddie Marlin passed away in 2019 in August. That's me and Eddie Marlin. And I'll do a quick recap. I started going to the Jonesboro matches in 1972. I started going to the Memphis matches in 1981, and started helping promote spot shows, and it just evolved through that. And then after college, in about 1985, close end of 85, started 86, Jerry Lawler hired me and had me move to Memphis because it was his time to book, and he needed assistant because basically we called me the assistant general manager, and then the assistant booker. So it started in 86. Then in 87, Jerry Jarrett took over the book. He had me move from Memphis to Nashville, started going to all the towns and started going to the office every day. Lawler didn't have booking meetings. He just, on late Friday night, he would lay out the TV, write the TV in the newfangled terms, and then it was 1987 when I started making trips with Jerry, and I used to stay at Monday nights at Eddie's, Tuesday nights either at Jarrett's or at Randy West House, and at the office every day. And so Jerry would be in the front seat, Tojo would be driving, I'd be in the back, and he would talk about the TV and then hand me the format and every week and say, look at how we lay out the TV and that sort of thing. And then I probably told this story before, Pat, but this is the big break for me, and it was 1987. Jerry Jarrett was in the front seat. He said, "Hey," said, "I'm getting sleepy." he said, he reached back in the back and handed me his booking book. He said, look at the card uh, for Memphis last week. Then he handed me a 2 or 3 formats, and he said, here's the last 3 formats so you can see how it's formatted and you can see who wrestled who in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And he said, I'm taking a nap. He said, when I wake up, have a TV for Saturday written or booked for me, and we'll go over it segment by segment. So he went to sleep, woke up in 2 hours, and he said, what do you have? And I handed him uh, the thing. And so he said, okay, segment uh, per segment. And he went segment for segment, and a couple of things he had ideas for, and he pitched, and he said, for first time, he said, that is great. And he said, I'll use some of this. And I said, good. So I was a kid, the happiest kid in the world. Jerry Jarrett liked my shit, Pat. He liked my shit. He liked the TV. And then he said he would use some of it. So I was thinking maybe at that point, maybe he would just like some of it. But finally, by Thursday, he told me he wasn't going to TV. And so he handed me in his handwriting a TV, but 95% of it was based on the exercise he gave me. And so that's the first TV that I booked. And so I didn't book every week, most of the time when he was out of town or something like that. But then the full-time booking job didn't take place until March of '94, when I came up with the Monday Night Memories idea. And Lawler 100% went with the card that I had. And then I had some videos, the Jimmy Hart video and different things, videos put together for the thing. I did book the card, and then figured he would write the TV, book the TV, but he told me to do it. And then after that, then for the next 3 years, I booked the TV every week. And so that's how I became the booker, based on the success of Monday Night Memories, which is one of the top things in my tenure, the most successful, absolutely the most successful show, and something people talk about today. So any questions, Pat?
No, it's kind of interesting. That just seems to be the way they do it. They hand you the keys and say, drive the car, right?
Right. And if you can't drive the car, then
You find out pretty quick.
you'll make the changes uh, for uh, for sure, without a doubt. Any more questions, Pat, as we talk about my booking tenure?
No, I'm interested. I'm not quite. I know what Richard is asking. I'm not quite sure when that happened. Um, I know Dutch did go down to Florida to book, and I think he booked in Atlanta some too. And I
Remember,
know
I
he did,
said
and he
that I
didn't
didn't.
watch.
Richard, I had already said that we'll
Okay,
talk about.
okay.
I'm not fussing at you. I'm fussing at Richard. We'll talk about Dutch when we get to Dutch, and that's not too many people down on the list before we get to Dutch. So just stick
All
with
right.
it, and we will get to him as well. And one of the things, Pat, I thought you would enjoy this, and this was in 1995, and this was in June the 11th, at the Louisville Gardens. We did Monday Night Memories in '94. We did on Saturday, June the 10th, Memphis Memories 2 on a Saturday night. That wasn't as successful. The first time is always more successful. And then, because I wanted some of the legends on television, it was my call. That was a bad one, Pat. I decided, man, if we can hype it tonight, and last year's Monday Night Memories, and we got Jackie Fargo and all that, and we did a tag team tournament. Tournaments never drew. Lawler thought that it would. He pitched the idea, and it just was down significantly from the 9,000 people in '94. It probably did 45. We came when we did USWA's 25th anniversary in Louisville. The stars of the '70s, '80s, and '90s reunite for this night to remember, Sunday, June the 11th at 7:30 at the Louisville Gardens. Ringside and reserve tickets were just $10 and general admission was 8. We had a 10-man best of Louisville elimination match. We had a blast from the past, a unified world title match, King Jerry Lawler against Lumberjack Joe LeDuc. Then the Fabulous Ones reunion, Stan Lane, Steve Kern with Jim Cornette against Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert with Ronnie P. Gossett. Then the match that stole the show and set up summer of '95 as the best summer business, the best program, the best deal we had in Memphis in years, the Smoky Mountain USWA feud. It started June the 11th, Pat, with Rock and Roll Express against PG-13. Also a Moondog Rules match where we had Anything Goes, Brian Christopher, Bill Dundee, and the Moondogs in an 8-man tag against Brian Lee, Jim Harris, Max Muscle, and Mr. World Class. There was preliminary matches on the card. A parade of legends, a special tribute to the legends of Louisville wrestling, hosted by, appearing in Louisville for the first time in close to 10 years, I would guess. Lance Russell hosted this. In attendance, the Fabulous One, Jackie Fargo, Jerry Jarrett, Eddie Marlin, Tommy Gilbert, Sarah Lee, Cora Combs, Jim White, Lawler's first tag team partner, Bob Armstrong, Handsome Jimmy Valiant, and a very special tribute to longtime Louisville promoter Christine Jarrett. That, again, I think it sums up, especially talking about the Smoky Mountain USWA thing. This led to the great summer in '95, and that's the card. Your thoughts on that card, A Night to Remember, Pat?
Well, I've seen that. I've seen the video of that, and yeah, that was a great card there. And I again, you've heard everybody on has heard me say it. Um, heard me say it. Um, that Smoky Mountain, the Smoky Mountain Memphis feud was some of the best business I saw in the '90s. Period. And I think I've got in my mind that that could work and could bring back territory wrestling, but I had I need to make $10 million to throw away into it, see if I'm right. So
Bo was at the Louisville card. He says that's great, and I think I'll deal with this question. Thomas says, Randy, does having all those named guys in attendance for that Louisville show create a problem for you from a payout perspective? There's a lot of special guys to try to pay. It would have caused big problems if it wasn't drawn. Now, there was some guys, and we'll put the card back up. There was some trans involved in different things. Trans would interfere with the profit, but it wouldn't be an issue with the payoff percentage. You would still pay 30% and divide it up. And we look at this card uh, again. So, as
well, how many did you draw for that, Ray?
you know, about 6,000 people, but
Okay.
that figure of what the attendance was, we'd never ask for or care about. The money, the money, the money, the money. And so that's what we would go with that. As believe it or not, now Jerry Lawler ended up driving, no trans, and his payoff would have been as one of the main matches and one of the stars of the show, but no guarantee. Lawler did not guarantee, and I on bad houses that didn't draw. If the guarantee at the time was $40, and some didn't draw, Lawler would be $40 and would not bitch one word. He understood how it was, certainly. And so Joe LeDuc, we would just say you'll get a main event type of payoff. And he came from Atlanta, and that flight wasn't expensive. Kern and Lane, certainly. With I don't remember exactly what it was. It wasn't. It wasn't a lot. Jim Cornette, I don't think we paid him at all. Maybe we did. He wanted to be a part of the Christine Jarrett. Rich and Gilbert was part of the crew. They didn't have a guarantee. Rock and Roll Express had a $150 guarantee. PG-13 did not have a guarantee. Brian Christopher, no guarantee. Bill Dundee, no guarantee. I think the Moondogs was $70, maybe 75. Oh, Jackie Fargo got a plane ticket and probably a $400 payoff. But sometimes if a card drew bad, you'd go over, pay more than 30%. You'd get bitched at, but it would happen. We didn't have to go over the payoff percentage. This did well. So did that make sense, Pat?
It does. It does.
People saying how good looking a card that was, and that was good. And Doug, you messaged several times. Doug, first of all, this streaming show is done by internet, and we can't do the show on phone as well. Thomas said, Randy, was there any particular wrestler that you really wanted to get for that show that either couldn't make it or turned it down? I would like to have. I would have liked to have Jimmy Hart for that, and I think he was still in WCW for sure. By the way, Bob Armstrong came in and probably paid him $150 guarantee for that. And Alexander said, how many matches did that USWA Louisville show had outside of the top matches? Probably 6 to 8 more.
Yeah, it was a real card.
Austin Idol, I believe, because he was in Memphis for 94. I ran a super card in Nashville on a Saturday before March the 4th. Booked Idol. He didn't show up. I booked him for a super show in Louisville on a Sunday. He didn't show up. I didn't think he'd show up on that Monday, but he came. He came for that. And after that, I thought it's not worth it. Not worth it to take the chance. And I did not make that mistake again to Power Pro Wrestling. And he showed up one time and never showed up again. So sometimes you go by just history of people, and sometimes it's good history, and sometimes it's bad history. And then we'll finish up with the local, and we're still at 8:02 waiting. And I'm looking to see if Michael, who said he would be here about 8:40. At 7:45, he's not here. Hold on, as Michael still hadn't done that, and we'll go through the remaining bookers in the Memphis territories, and we will start with the person that booked after I got mad at the new ownership. Jerry Jarrett sold, and then to Lawler, and Lawler then sold the entire thing to an investor called Mark Selker, and had Larry Burton as the GM. I didn't get along with him, and I dislike Larry Burton a lot worse than I ever disliked Jerry Jarrett. And Jerry Jarrett was one of the most brilliant people I ever saw in my life, and Larry Burton wasn't.
Well,
And
Burton, did he have any experience in the business?
no, he just became buddies with Lawler. And Lawler thought he could help with promotions and sponsorship and probably selling the company. And so that's exactly what happened. After I went away for a short period of time, and Mike Samples is a nice guy. He really is. Had never booked a territory before. He booked for a few weeks. And then after that, and that's somebody that Burton felt he could control because he damn sure couldn't control me at all. And I was set in my ways. I'd listen to Jerry Lawler and I'd listen to Jerry Jarrett, but I wasn't going to listen to Larry Burton. And I never met the new owner, Mark Selker, in my life. After Mike was replaced, he was replaced by Dutch Mantell, and I watched most of those TVs. Business was not good. Talent was leaving. People didn't like the new ownership or Larry Burton, and they went with Dutch, and Dutch was a heel and did some good stuff, but not to blame Dutch. The damage had been done, and there was no getting it up, and it didn't get up at this point, and no fault to Dutch. But the last booker of the USWA was Dutch Mantell. However, no blame at all. He wasn't the reason at all they lost TV. He wasn't the reason that rent wasn't being paid. He wasn't the reason TV stations wasn't being paid at all. Dutch is a brilliant booker, has had a tremendous success in other places. Now, best of our ability, he was assistant booker for Dundee, maybe for Jerry Jarrett a couple of times. I think this was his first run as the solo booker at that time period. But he was respected for his ideas, and he was a deep thinker, and he had great ideas. And he had a booking run in after Eddie Graham, before Eddie Graham passed away, and after Eddie Graham passed away. He was the booker in Florida and did a very good job. He's just a very good guy. He has done tremendous business for Carlos Colon in Puerto Rico. Probably the most successful booker ever in Puerto Rico, I would say. Did a great job. And he was part of the creative team on TNA Wrestling, and he was the booker of the Knockouts division, which was the most successfully rated division of TNA. Dutch Mantell is a great booker, a super booker, and I don't hold it against him because I think, and during the same time period when Mike Samples, I got a call 2 or 3 weeks after, or maybe 4 to 6 weeks after I left, to come back again. And I was told I would have full authority, I would have this or that. But I knew at that point that they weren't paying their buildings. They weren't, the television station wasn't happy. There was stuff happening. And creatively, I could have made it better, I think. It would have been hard to get to talent because the Tennessee territory getting a bad reputation that had before, and certainly was getting a bad reputation, not the place to go. So I was told by an advisor, they said, hey, don't say a flat out no. Said, don't say a flat out no. Said, quote them guaranteed money you need every week. They won't pay. They can't pay.
Yeah.
So I was probably making booking maybe on good weeks toward the end of that run, $700-800. Monday Night Memories in Louisville, the Louisville thing. I got $1,000 for a night. But basically, uh, I told him I would be glad to come in. I said, full authority, 100%. I'll do the booking. I'll do the payoffs. I'll be the general manager, $5,000 a week. And they said, oh, I'm sorry. We'd love to have you. And they tried to Jew me down. I said, oh, $5,000 a week. And then if it comes up, I'll be asking for more money. I was praying not to get the job. And that's what happened. They said, "Oh, I'm sorry, no hard feelings, but we can't." And I said, "No hard feelings at all. I didn't want to do it, Pat."
Yeah, sometimes you got to do those kind of things
No doubt,
and just hope they don't call your bluff.
for uh, sure. Alexander, did the ECWA and USWA invasion angle help or hurt Memphis? It didn't hurt it. I don't know if it went much to Louisville and Nashville. By that point, we weren't running the Mid South Coliseum. We were running the big one, Expo Hall, and that couldn't draw a lot of money. Jerry Lawler and Dutch, I think, was the creative behind it. And watching that back, it was great stuff, fantastic stuff, no doubt about it. Still hadn't heard from Michael St. John, and as we're, uh, I am checking to see if he is keeping up with us and keeping us in mind when he's going to be here. But we are going to run through pretty quick, Pat, different bookers, and I want to know what you have heard about these different bookers as well. This is national bookers. Any idea who this is?
I feel ignorant on here more than I want to, and I think more than our friends deserve. But it's a little bit familiar, but not much.
I heard the name. If I wouldn't have seen this, actually, I didn't know what he looked like. I knew the name. I searched for great wrestling bookers, and this guy was the promoter and the booker for San Francisco. His name's Roy Shire.
Okay.
Roy
Okay.
Shire, and a lot
Richard
of
was on
features.
top of that.
Do what?
Richard was on top of that.
So when I have, help me with that, Pat, because when I have graphics up, then I can't see the chat. So
I got it. I
don't let me
understand.
mess that. And uh, considered probably in the top five. Some people would say number one. This next person, a lot of people's list would be number one for this, Pat.
Eddie Graham.
Eddie Graham, known to be one of the best Finnish guys in the history of professional wrestling, like wrestling for sure. Barry Hay is in the house watching this show and appreciate that very much. And James says, did I have a assistant booker in Power Pro? Assistant booker, co-booker, yes, it was Brandon Baxter. Again, Tony Richards watching this show today. I wanted Tony to be able to come on the show when Michael was not being able, was going to be late, and he's not here at all. And Tony answers that question, the Professor Roy Shires. And so in that list so far, Pat, we have talked about national bookers, and we are talking about Roy Shire, and we talked about Eddie Graham, a disciple of Roy Shire and a disciple of Eddie Graham. If this guy, and certainly I think this guy is a excellent booker.
Number top five, no doubt.
Fantastic, and he would be in certainly the top 10, maybe the top 5 all time. I didn't see a lot of these guys stuff at all. But Cowboy Bill Watts, your thoughts on that?
Well, he 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 had a great business down in Louisiana and Houston and Arkansas in that area for a long time. And I think he was probably the last booker for WCW or for Georgia Championship anyway. Um,
Bill Watts?
hmm
Ole Anderson was the last booker for Georgia Championship.
Turner hired him when he bought it back, and I think he
And,
went to stay 2 or 3 weeks or something.
and Dusty he stayed a couple of months and he had input in the booking, but Dusty was the booker there. But man, I used to get Channel 11 or Channel 4, depending on which one it was on. Our Jonesboro Cable Company got television from Little Rock, and Bill Watts and Leroy McGurk ran Little Rock. So I saw a lot of championship wrestling from Oklahoma and a lot of Mid South wrestling, and certainly I have tremendous respect. I think he's a great promoter, a businessman, and a booker. How would Cowboy Bill Watts, at near 80 years old, book a major company today? I don't think he would do good. And again,
No,
uh,
no offense to you or Watts or anybody else. It would be like um, somebody booking a silent movie now. It's so different, and they're looking for such different things now.
different audience,
Yeah,
always been different audience than the next person. And he was a long time booker for Championship Wrestling from Florida. Became a star of Championship Wrestling from Florida. He had a hell of a run at Jim Crockett Promotions, the American Dream. Dusty Rhodes, love him or hate him, one of the most charismatic baby faces in the history of the business, and very creative. Pat, he went along lines of the package shows that he learned from Eddie Graham. His mentor was just like Bill Watts had mentors, and Eddie Graham was one of them. Dusty Rhodes learned from Eddie Graham. What's your thoughts about Dusty Rhodes?
well, Dusty was my first hero in wrestling, I guess. After, well, not first, but I mean, once wrestling blew up on Georgia Championship, in retrospect, and this is hard not to do, okay, but you know, at times Dusty would book Dusty, and then everybody around him, and that's the only criticism I've got. But he did some great stuff, but he had some bookers around him. He and Ole, I mean, Ole is as good a booker as as there is, and they drew some money together.
As a single program, absolutely, they drew tremendous money. There is no doubt of continuing our series on the great bookers, and this is good stuff. We're talking about today another one that booked in Florida and was booking WCW in the NWO run, Kevin Sullivan. I thought he had just an excellent mind. I think Kevin Sullivan, excellent booker, Pat.
Yeah, I think he did a awful lot of good stuff. Uh, really did, and I tell you, if you and I, those of us that a lot of me at least have run through a bunch of interviews, but if you can find some Kevin Sullivan interviews uh, on the internet, particularly about booking and stuff, listen to those because they're sure worth it.
Hey, James is asking you a question. Hey, Pat, did Dusty ever help with booking in WWE?
I'm not aware that he ever did. Uh, I know he went up there and
Did
went
the
up there
polka
for a
dots?
while. Yeah, he went for the polka dots. I'm sure he didn't book that. There's rumor that Vince did that to take him down a peg because they were obviously, Dusty was leading the opposition in the war with WWE, with WCW for a period of time there. So
And I don't think that's the case. He was a merchandiser, Vince McMahon was, and he did
yeah,
those polka dots and got a lot of money on that. And Dusty made the best money of his career in that run, and I'm sure he had input. The,
yeah.
the next person that
Hey
we're going to
Doc,
talk about is our buddy Jim Cornette. Now we're 40 minutes left to go in this show, and we've been breezing through this, and we want to make a welcome to Talking Memphis Wrestling. Again, I am producing and hosting. This has been one of those nights. Pat is sick, his back's out, but we have made it through as we are an hour and 20 minutes into the show. And right now, we want to certainly switch to something we talked about earlier. And coming up, Super Summer Sizzler coming up in Huntsville, Alabama at the community building. And looking forward to Michael St. John being there Friday night. My man, Michael St. John, is in the house, and he's from Arab, Alabama, and we are going to put him on the air right now. Here's Michael St. John with his excuses, with his hellos, with his first take, and you can also make fun of Pat, then we'll put you full screen for your first take and your update.
First of all, everything that's happened tonight's my fault. So let's be clear about this. You've done a
Adam
great
not being
job,
here
Pat.
is not your fault.
can I tell Suzanne that?
Yes, tell Suzanne it's all my fault. It's all my fault. I got a call last minute about a conference, a press conference, and it's one of these things that a young man is, and we've in the 28 years that I've done Arabian Night football here in this community as the voice of the Knights, we've only had 3 kids ever go to a Division I school, and this is the third of the 3. And he's an offensive lineman, very nice young man, great family. And I was, quote unquote, asked very specially and specifically to be there, which I was. And it was a very nice event, went way too long. But anyway, I'm here, and thank you for allowing me to come at this late notice. Pat, I'm sorry to hear about your back. I was in the Magic City yesterday and wanted to buy you a cup of coffee or an early dinner, and unfortunately we couldn't connect, but hopefully
Yeah, I'm
he's back.
sorry.
I've got a great back, Eric Jansen here in Huntsville. If you need a good back doctor, I know one of the best in the South, in Dr. Jansen.
Well, it's old war injuries, and I'll get over them. Anyway, I want to say,
Well, I hope.
glad you're here, Mike. I want to say hello to our good friend Dr. Rusty Robinson today. So,
And
so
Randy, again, thank you for allowing me to. I got you. Thank you again for allowing me to be here. That's my first take.
That's your first take?
That's my first take. Now, the event you talked about, I love Bo James, a great guy, he's got a great thing going on, but he could have found a better picture of me than that. My God, that's scary.
I thought it was a good picture myself.
Yeah, I did too. I thought you were very handsome. I want you're gonna have to get some hair black before you get out there.
Yeah,
so
exactly. I can't show up like this, can I?
We just have
Thank
about
you for that.
40
That's going to be
minutes
he's
left
got
in the
a good event going on.
Yeah.
We've got a delay. I'm seeing you guys talk after I'm hearing you, and that's odd. We normally don't have that.
Well, why don't you log yourself off and log yourself back on?
We'll do right now.
Okay.
Did you see what I did there?
No,
I was talking, but I wasn't saying anything.
I wouldn't. I was looking at the controls, I wasn't looking at you. I've looked at you all day long, Pat, as we're waiting for Michael stand. John, this don't happen, does it? When this don't happen when Adam's here.
No,
I bet
well,
it does. I just don't have to deal with it.
well, just for all our friends listening, we don't. Well, Adam doesn't get near the credit he deserves because
We put him over there. That's not true. I mean,
he's a superstar each and every week.
Michael, let's see if you can hear us right now.
Okay, that seems to be better. The words are matching up with the mouth.
Okay, all right. So you did your first take, and just again, we have about 40 minutes left in the right now, 37 minutes left in the show. We won't go back over the the finishing up the Memphis bookers, but as we got into the national bookers, I'm going to tell you who we've talked about, and just then we'll stop with the last one I showed, and then so remember who we talk about. We started with San Francisco booker Roy Shire, who taught Bill Watts, the great Finnish man and the great creative booker and the promoter of championship wrestling from Florida, also mentored Bill Watts. Eddie Graham, a great teacher and a great booker. Of course, Cowboy Bill Watts was a great booker as well. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and Kevin Sullivan. So Roy Shires, Eddie Graham, Bill Watts, Dusty Rhodes, Kevin Sullivan, and then that catches us up.
All good, all good. I mean, you're hitting the cream of the crop of the bookers that the public knows about. You know, there are a lot of bookers though that were behind the scenes that a lot of people didn't realize was there until recently on shows like this. But I know the Carolinas had some strong booking over there.
George Scott, and I did not put his picture up. George Scott was a very successful booker there, and there's more on this list. But basically, if you know anything about or heard anything about Roy Shires, Eddie Graham, Bill Watts, Dusty Rhodes, Kevin Sullivan.
Absolutely. In fact, I never met Roy Shire. Actually met and worked with the rest of that crew. I think, it's odd, and I don't think it's odd, but I think it is unique that good talent in the ring, and doesn't always do this, but it certainly does with those guys who are the top of the crop, I would think, nationally, coincide with the fact they're good bookers. And I think a good worker has a better chance of being a good booker than somebody that's never worked before, or somebody that comes out of fandom, if you would, and that's not a slight.
I came out of fandom, and I think I was a pretty good damn booker.
I know. Let's go back a minute for a second now. But you had a mentor, okay? And let's be honest. Your mentor was Eddie Marlin, and Eddie Marlin was always around the booking office with Nick, with Jerry. I mean, Eddie Marlin. I don't know if he ever had the quote unquote booking title, but Eddie Marlin was as good as anybody I have ever met or talked to about it, as is Randy Hales. I sing your praises.
Randy West was a big part of the booking meetings when Jerry Jarrett. Randy West was in more booking meetings than Eddie Marlin was. Randy West knows his stuff and was a great idea guy. By the way, I want to interrupt right now and want to put the comment up there from William Robinson, because I reached out when Michael was going to be late and Adam wasn't going to be on it all, and I knew for probably the first hour that it would be me and Pat. I asked Dr. Robinson to be on. However, then I saw a tweet. He is celebrating his anniversary in the place where he had his honeymoon. That's the Red Apple Inn, and one of my favorite places in the world, Heber Springs, Arkansas. My niece and her husband has a lake home in Heber Springs. That's my favorite. Greer's Ferry Lake is just a beautiful area, and wanted to say hello right there.
Is he looking for Bigfoot while he's celebrating his anniversary up there in the wilds of Arkansas?
I don't know if Bigfoot's ever been to Heber Springs. Have you ever been to Heber Springs? That's closer. That's closer to Little Rock than it is Jonesboro, and it's probably 120 miles from Jonesboro.
I've been to Hot Springs, and in fact, Melanie and I are planning next spring, God willing, to take a trip up to Arkansas, maybe even for the Arkansas Derby, to the racetrack there, because I've had 3 people tell me in the past year what a great experience Hot Springs is as part of the horse racing world. And I've only been to Hot Springs one other time in life, and I was very impressed with it then, and it wasn't what it is today. It was many, many years ago. But I've heard of Heber Springs. Unfortunately, I've not been there.
You know,
Is that where Petty Jean Mountain is, Randy?
I'm really not familiar too much. I don't think so, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay. Frank Seaton could probably let us know that for sure. So Petty Jean Mountain, where is that?
That's somewhere. It's a state park over there. So
no Bigfoot this time. My wife probably wouldn't go for that, and we can understand that for sure. Also, Richard says Bill Watts learned from Vern Gagne, and Vern is on the list a little later on today, as we got people getting ahead of ourselves there. And Jim Cornette, best booking job I think he ever did was in Ohio Valley Wrestling. Did a fantastic job. He also did a great job in Smoky Mountain. He was also part of the WCW booking team when Turner first bought that, and booking teams of any set you can imagine, Cornette and a lot of great bookers don't work well with others. Give me one guy. Don't give me a committee. He was part of a committee, and so.
Well, he worked in the WWE also up in Stanford.
Part of the writing team by that point.
Okay.
With Pat and with Bruce and Vince McMahon.
And I must agree with you on that. Every time I hear the word booking team, I know, and I compare a lot in the wrestling world with the broadcast world. Anytime you have a programming team, it's signing up for failure. And to me, a booking team or a programming team means one thing to me: too many cooks in the kitchen, and too many cooks spoil the soup, is what my grandpa used to say. So I think the same holds true for wrestling, and I certainly know it holds true for broadcast.
I will let Pat talk about Cornette in a minute. I will say this, just me. Everybody's different. Jerry Jarrett liked certain people. Say, I certainly mentioned Randy West. You mentioned Eddie Marlin. He would always constantly confer by phone, and before he moved to Memphis, in Nashville with Jerry Lawler. So Jerry Jarrett was the decision maker, but he liked different viewpoints, including me, including Jeff, including a lot of people.
Bill Dundee, I know Bill Dundee had his ear the several times that I was in the office up there. Bill Dundee was somebody that he relied on and respected for his booking ideas and his thoughts on everything as well, which is ironic because you think of Lawler and Dundee being the greatest rivalry of all time in Memphis wrestling, certainly the case there. But the promoter, the owner, actually listened to both sides of that rivalry, which probably lent to making it so good for so long.
And he kind of stirred them both up against each other. That's no secret. I mean, that is no secret. Made it worse than it was, and it was successful. Cornette did work on the WWE team, and he was successful. And we'll talk real quick about, and I didn't get to everybody, folks. So at the end of this show, if I missed anybody, you can talk about. Pat Patterson, also known as the Great Finish Man. He certainly was the number 2 guy. He came up with the Royal Rumble that's still going today. Again, a great finish guy, very respected. And Vince McMahon, loving or hating Vince McMahon, certainly his entire reign, he was the booker. He had different people, including Jerry Jarrett, came in on the team, Jim Cornette, Bruce Pritchard, a big part, Pat Patterson. But the man that made the decision was Vince McMahon. There's no doubt about it. Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson. Michael.
Well, Pat Patterson, I didn't get to know Pat. I met him one time. He came to Memphis TV toward the end in the late 90s or mid to late 90s. The thing about Vince, and I've always had a respect for Vince in this regard, second generation, which means a lot. You have it inbred in you. Jeff Jarrett, I think, is in the same boat. Second generation, was brought up in the sport. I think that played a tough role, a big role in that. But the thing I respect Vince McMahon for, I think, the most in this arena is the fact that he found the best minds wherever they were and brought them to him to be part of his company. Whether it was Jerry Jarrett, whether it was Jimmy Cornette, whether it was Dusty Rhodes, whether it was, name it. Vince at one time had him in the office in some kind of booking capacity, if not just to use their thoughts and their brain and their creativity. But I think the idea that you would allow, and everybody talks about Vince's big ego, he may have had the last say, but I guarantee you, truth be known, Vince listened to the minds that he brought in. He made the final decision, but he listened, and I think that's a mark of a great manager.
And I certainly listened to everybody as well, no doubt. Pat, do you have comments about Vince and Pat?
No, I really don't. My chat's not working, Randy, and I got to get some pain medicine. I think since Michael's on here, I'm gonna let y'all finish up if that's okay.
So more back problems?
Yeah,
it got worse.
Yeah, and I just need to get, you just you just have to take the pain stuff and lay down, and I've burned off one, so I probably need to go do that.
Oh, we appreciate it very much, and we'll have Michael see you out.
All right.
Love you, Pat. And if you need anything from me, I'm 80 miles up the road. Let me tell you a quick thing that Dr. Youngblood actually told me, and then Dr. Jansen, my back guy, told me too. Every 2 hours, 2 Tylenol, 2 Aleve, 2 hours later, Tylenol, 2 hours later, Aleve. Then you don't have to take any of the hard stuff. It's worked for me.
I'll try that. All right. See you guys. See you, everybody. Somebody has to jump out.
On Talking Memphis Wrestling, the great Pat Trammell, everybody. And it's Michael St. John, the great Michael St. John. And I think we'll finish this series, Michael. I might go again over the 9 o'clock area, but certainly we have several more we want to get your thoughts on, and somebody that Pat said that he thinks one of the great bookers, and certainly probably not one of the most popular bookers, but that's okay too. Ole Anderson, your quick thoughts on Ole Anderson.
Well, I think the biggest thing about Ole is, the night I had the opportunity to sit down with him for 3.5 hours and do a show for Ronnie West and Bill Dundee up in Cleveland, Tennessee. And he and I got to be pretty good friends pretty quickly. And I respect the man. But the one thing that I will say about Ole, and I think it was it's very obvious when you look at what he did and what he controlled. Ole did what Ole wanted to do. 99 times out of 100, it was damn good. So I think that's a big credit to the man. But I don't know if anybody had Ole's ear. I think he might talk to some people, but I think in the true snack of things, unlike Vince that brought in the best booking talent or the best minds he could and then picked their brains, I think Ole sort of knew what he was going to do, and he may have talked to somebody maybe just to get make sure he's on the right track or something like that. But I've heard this about Ole for a long time, that Ole was very hard-headed, and Ole did what Ole did, and thank God for what he did, because of what he did, Turner Wrestling and WCW was as good as it could get.
I think there's no doubt about it, and I can't answer my own question that I'm going to ask. One of my favorite angles that ever been done was the Dusty Rhodes, Ole Anderson feud where Dusty ended up getting turned on, finally teaming with Ole for 3 weeks, and on the fourth week it was a match in a cage, and Ole turned, and Jim Cornette was there as a fan, part of the Wrestling Fans International, and the famous interview that Dusty says, Ole Anderson, it'll never be over. It'll never be over. Certainly, I don't know who you credit that for. Ole was the promoter in Georgia and the booker in Georgia, but Dusty Rhodes, any top talent would have say so in their program, even working against the booker, without a doubt. So I don't know who you can credit that, but Ole Anderson was a part of it, of that program. So I would give him high marks, but he was one of the people who didn't change with the time. The next person somebody mentioned earlier, Paul Lee, known for his ECW days and creating that, and it was a viable thing. And then he gave a lot of talent break on his TV that ended up in WWE or WCW. And I think Paul Lee is a great mind, and he's been very involved in WWE booking, especially the whole Bloodline deal, and with Brock Lesnar. He's respected big time. Paul Lee, what's your thoughts on him?
I remember meeting him for the first time and giving him a ride because he didn't have a car when he came down and worked for Jerry Jarrett and came into the territory, and giving him a ride from Jerry's house down to the hotel he was staying at in Hendersonville. And I was very impressed. He was a young man. He was very bright, asked a lot of questions, very, very good questions, very smart questions. And I had a chance to spend a little time with him while he was in the territory. And you could see that there was that this guy was more than your normal average guy, a wrestling guy that would come in, because he had such a widespread knowledge even then of the business. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, there are a lot of people that put down ECW for what it did, what it was. It was an alternative to the norm. It probably gave a lot of people out there new thoughts, new ideas, new venues, new avenues of which to pursue wrestling angles. And what happened in the ring, it was more violent, which I think he learned a lot of that from Memphis. I think, if the truth be known, if you and I had him on this show, or you had him on this show, I think he would admit that Memphis was a very fallow ground for his knowledge base about how to shoot an angle, how to run a program, how to do TV, how to treat the talent. And I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's a long answer to a short question, but I would have to put Paul Lee in the top 10 nationwide without a doubt.
I think there's no doubt about it. And somebody that
lost your audio, Randy.
Hello?
There you go. Got it back.
Yeah, it was showing. I had audio. I don't know what happened there. Somebody mentioned something last week, and I am going to put his picture on here right now. And I think this guy had success, and I think he started the so successful feud. Then he left the territory. He started the Freebirds against the Von Erichs. Gary Hart booked different places, and I never met Gary, but certainly he's very respected. Did you ever run into Gary Hart?
Believe it or not, I ran into Gary and worked with Gary when the misconceived notion of a marriage between Memphis Wrestling and Georgia Championship culminated in Chattanooga. And I went down to Atlanta for a couple of the shows with Gordon Soley and met him then. I actually had a chance to talk with Gary for about 15 minutes. And again, very much like Paul Lee Dangerly, very like a Jim Cornette, a brilliant mind. And what comes out of brilliant minds come normally brilliant ideas. And it applies to wrestling as well. So I'll agree Gary Hart was very good. I don't think Gary Hart had a long tenure, though. at doing it. I think he was more of the manager behind the scenes, maybe with ideas, but as far as booking and putting things together, I'm not aware that he did that kind of thing on a long term.
But he was a good idea guy and very successful, and started the ball running for the Von Erich deal. And we will talk about other guys as well as we get to the pictures. Another guy that I think did a great job in Knoxville and both ends of Southeastern Wrestling in Birmingham and Pensacola and Mobile and in Dothan. Ron Fuller, great. Robert Fuller, his brother, certainly we talked about him booking Memphis. He had success. And the other part of that team, certainly that was very important, was Bob Armstrong. So my second favorite territory out of Memphis, I would say the Fuller territories was most similar to Memphis. Welch, Roy, the Fullers, that had something to do with it. Ron Fuller was the businessman of the bunch. Bob Armstrong used to help book as well, and I think the Fullers, and that's one of my favorite territories.
I would agree with that, and I'd agree with it for all the reasons you just mentioned. And remember, Buddy Fuller was the booker for Nick back in the day. And of course, Ron, obviously bloodline, family, so forth, inherited that. I was not as privy to as many shows out of the Knoxville territory when Ron was booking as I was out of the Birmingham territory when he had Continental. But I have heard, and people like Bo James have mentioned, that the territories were extremely similar in the way that they ran the programs and so forth and so on. So I would give credit that Ron is a good booker.
No doubt about it, for sure. As we're trying to look at what else we have, and another person, as we see Gary Hart again, and another person that was very successful in many places was the great Vern Gagne. And that AWA territory was a major territory, and not only the booker but the owner, top when the TV went on the air, national and the DeMont network, one of the first stars was Vern Gagne. And I don't think we can at all leave off Vern Gagne.
Well, the Super Clash is the opportunity that I had to work some with those folks when Jerry Jarrett was doing the interaction with the AWA. Did Vern have bookers per se? I always thought that Vern just did everything, but he had people in the office that would work with him. In fact, I think Billy Robinson's name came up at one time.
Later years, Wahoo, and also Greg Gagne was
Greg, his son, yes, of course. Yeah. But I think as when it comes to it, Vern was the guy. And I think that was the same way with the Bruiser and the Sheik as well in those territories. I think the Bruiser controlled his territory from the booking standpoint, from the first match to the lights out, and then the same thing with the Sheik. I know the Sheik was that way in Detroit because when I had an opportunity to talk with him and ride with him and drive him around for the times he was in Nashville, it was pretty obvious that he had total control of what happened in the Detroit, Northern Ohio area that he booked, of course.
No, we made it through, Michael. As a matter of fact, we made it through the list of bookers. So I think our consensus last week, which wouldn't have changed today as we picked the best booker of the Memphis territory, we would absolutely go with Jerry Jarrett, correct?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. We didn't touch on, I don't know if you brought up the Dallas territory when I wasn't here, but the Dallas territory, we had Eric Embry in Dallas at one time, but that was later on. Before that, it was all Fritz von Erich. And then in Houston, there was Paul Bosch and I forget the other competition. But I spent a little bit of time. I spent 2 years in Arizona, and there was a booker that booked the Phoenix area. He booked Phoenix, Tucson, Albuquerque, Las Vegas, and I can't remember his name. He was the promoter and the booker. And the guy in Los Angeles, there's a name, and I know Ernesto was out there. Tom Ernesto booked for the Los Angeles territory for a while. And I know, but in the heyday of the Los Angeles territory, in the days of Pepper Gomez and Jose Lothario and I think Ray Stevens was in that bunch and so forth, that was a pretty hot territory on the West Coast for a while. And of course, it dissipated long before the rest of the territories did.
Somebody's asking the main booker in Mid-Atlantic, the person that changed it from a tag team territory to a singles territory and had a hell of a run, brought Ric Flair in, brought Blackjack Mulligan in, Johnny Valentine in, George Scott. And he was the first booker for Vince McMahon and national expansion. He later became, once Turner bought Jim Crockett Promotions, he booked World Championship Wrestling, WCW, but it was obviously he hadn't watched wrestling in 10 years, and he did not have a good run at all. So when you agree with me, I'm sure, for Memphis, you say Jerry Jarrett, no doubt.
Hands down. Jerry Jarrett was outstanding. And Bill Dundee, I think Bill Dundee did a great job for Bill Watts and New Orleans and all that area when he was out there. And I think Dundee would be on that list. And, we named a bunch of others. If we could, let's bring this around to today and the role of the booker today, especially in the national scene with AEW, with WWE, perhaps even with TNA. I don't know who else we would throw in there. But is the role of the booker really changed now that MMA's involved with WWE? Tony, I'm sure Tony has a lot of folks that he listens to, but Tony is the booker, in my opinion, for AEW. I think he has his finger on the pulse of everything that AEW shows. And it makes me wonder, with the product now that's on TV with both of them, and I'm gonna shoot on this, Randy, and please apologize. I apologize before doing this, but I watched 10 minutes of Monday Night Raw last night.
And I turned 0 minutes.
Well, I turned it off. And one of the reasons they were in London, they were at the O2 Arena. It's a different atmosphere because the fans act differently in Europe. And, the way they started out the show just left me with a thud. It just was like, why are you watching this? I feel like, and when I turned it off, I felt like I'd wasted 10 minutes of my time. And they had two of their, I guess, big stars now, Obi-Femu, the big gigantic I don't even know if he's African-American black wrestler, and Jey Uso. And I'm sorry, but I don't know who's calling the shots there, but and about a week ago, I watched about the same amount of time of the AEW Wednesday night show. And I got news for you. Unless I see Jeff Jarrett on that show within the first 10 or 15 minutes, I don't follow it. And I'm a wrestling fan from, how you and I are cut out of the same cloth when it comes to this. We are devoted to this sport. And to have this going on in the biggest territories, the ones that are supposedly making the most money, makes me wonder where they're going to sit 12 months from now, 24 months from now.
People remember, as a fan, what you grew up with, and when you first got in business, what you grow up with, and so I would guess that people, I'd say from maybe 57 to 60 years old and up, don't like the current product. And I always used to say that I didn't want to be the guy that got old and then was anti the new product. I thought Jerry Jarrett evolved, but kept the basic theory of how to draw money in his head. That has gone by the wayside. That is gone. So I agree with you in this situation. Now, I didn't see that Jay Uso Obi Femi thing. I was listening to Busted Open for about 15 minutes this morning. Then I try to do that every day. And Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray, and they put both of them, and they keep up with the current product better than we do. Even Bully Ray has to watch it for his radio job and that sort of thing. So when I heard them talk about it, that opening segment, they both thought, especially Bully, they accomplished in that thing that you believe what both of them were saying and you wanted to see that match. They put it over so big. I'm thinking, I'm going to try to find that on YouTube and watch that. But at the same time, I would like our audience to give thoughts of what they thought about the thing last night. So you make me not want to watch it. Saying, but they really, it got over with them.
And I haven't watched, but maybe one episode of because number one's on Netflix, and I have a Netflix subscription, but I have to physically, I have to stop and get it up and get it running and all that stuff. Whereas on DirecTV, one button and it's there. And I'm not going to qualify it, but I am going to say this. I haven't seen but maybe one Monday Night Raw show since WrestleMania. So I've sort of lost the ground of it. But I'll be honest with you, just watching that first 10 minutes, I don't know who the babyface is. I don't know who the heel is. I don't know what the crowd or who the crowd was cheering for. I don't know where they were going, and I didn't get a good feel. And it certainly wasn't compelling enough to make me want to watch that match at the Royal Rumble or whatever it is that's coming up Saturday. There was nothing there that it's in Saudi Arabia. They made that point clear, but I just don't know. It makes me wonder though, I don't know. And some people say, hey, wrestling is it's at its biggest point. You know, there's rumors now there's going to be a wrestling match at the White House or on the White House lawn like they did in MMA.
They're saying that's not going to happen.
It's not going to, okay. But again, where is wrestling right now in the big scheme of things? Again, it makes me wonder 12 months from now, 24 months from now, where is this all going? And, you know, quite frankly, some of the biggest talent in WWE have gotten long in the tooth. I mean, and people like Cena have retired and, you know, and I just wonder how much longer they can ride the Roman Reigns train. And Roman is a great talent, an incredible talent. But he's getting older. And the Usos
is 40 years old.
Yeah. And I mean,
Brock Lesnar is in his last thing. So they're pushing people like Jey Uso and they're pushing people like Obi Femi and that sort of thing.
Well, LA Knight. I mean, he's got a gimmick, but he doesn't. You hit the nail on the head. He's got a gimmick, but he doesn't do anything for me as a professional wrestler. So, and I'm anxious, and to be honest with you, I'm anxious. We're promoting pretty big the show this Friday here in Huntsville with the Southern States Wrestling, and I'm anxious. I did see a show at the fairgrounds in Coffee County, Tennessee last year, and there were a couple of young men on that card and one young woman that were impressive to me. So I'm sort of anxious to see what this goes, but I just don't have a passion right now, and I don't think I've lost my love for the business, but I don't have a passion right now for watching the current product on national television. And I don't know. I hope that wrestling hasn't gone beyond what my interests are. But again, I'm not seeing another point too, if I can make this, Randy, is that the AEW ran a show here at the end of May. We promoted it. There were some ticket giveaways. And normally you hear after a show like that, they have a TV taping at the Von Braun Center. You give away. People respond to you. They give you feedback. Thanks for the tickets. It was a great show. It was this. It was that. Zero comments. I didn't hear one comment from anybody that won. I didn't hear any comment from anybody that went. It was like they had the event and that was it. I mean, I don't know. It's just, and maybe it's the sign of the times. Maybe summer, who knows? It's just different.
And summer used to be the territories, especially the Memphis territory. I forgot one guy that I got a graphic of that I didn't talk about, and I want to talk about this guy because Bill Watts always had different bookers. Well, another guy that I thought I had a picture of, I don't, is Ken Mantell. Ken Mantell booked different places as well, and even though Gary Hart got the Freeburg Von Erich thing going, then Ken Mantell did that. Then Ken Mantell also booked for Bill Watts. Again, Bill Watts, no matter if it's Bill Dundee or whoever it was, always was had his voice and was at every TV and was very involved. But he would get different people. One of the bookers he had, and this is who Bill Dundee replaced in 1984. End 83, started 1984. Big Cat Ernie Ladd booked for Bill Watts many different times. And honestly, Michael, you can help me, and our audience can help me on this. Ernie Ladd, that's the only territory that I can think of that he did book, but he booked it several different times, and Bill Watts loved him. Ladd was a great talent. It was very unusual because if you can tell me others, I wish you would. African-American gentleman being a booker in a territory was not a usual situation. It was not a usual situation. So do you have any thoughts on that, on Ernie Ladd booking, and did you even know it?
I knew it. I've been told that. It's nothing that stands out in my mind as he did this or he did that. He was a great professional football player with the Chargers and later with the Oilers. And I think he went to Grambling, if I'm not mistaken, which is in Louisiana. And so he probably had a good probably had a good feel for the territory and the fact that he knew the area. But I always remember Ernie Ladd as being sort of an Andre the Giant kind of attraction.
Right.
That you would bring him into a territory for a week or so and work with him, and had the chance to work with him. He's a big guy, very smart, very bright young man. And you would have but he would move, and I know I remember him coming to the Los Angeles area and the Phoenix area and working there. I remember when he went to New York. I think Vince Sr. first brought him to New York, and then I know Vince Jr. used him. I remember him a couple of times in AWA. So Ernie was sort of that national attraction that everybody would come and see. Being that he was a former NFL player, and there were several former NFL players that became wrestling stars. Leo Nomalini with the 49ers that became a wrestling star. Alex Karras with the Detroit Lions that became a wrestling star. Of course, Wahoo McDaniel, linebacker in New York Jets. Ernie Ladd, defensive tackle for the San Diego Chargers and the Houston Oilers. There were others I'm leaving out. But they were sort of when a football player would become a wrestler, it was sort of a unique situation, and they became, a star in a second sport. And I think people would buy tickets to come and see them in the wrestling ring, just like they would watch them on TV or watch them in the arena or the stadiums for the NFL games. So I think that's a whole different culture that led to a lot of their success. But quite a few of those wrestlers or football players rather crossed over to wrestling. I don't know of any baseball players that did that. I think Bob Uecker may have been in one event in New York, but it wasn't a wrestling event. It wasn't
WrestleMania. He appeared, but he was timekeeper or something like that. A couple of different people, David Vermeer and also the great Bo James has said that Ernie Ladd booked in Charlotte in '84 for a short period of time. And so thank you very much for that. A couple of things for business as we fly right in, working our way towards our final take that I do want to say. We'll be here next week, and I plan on next week on Talking Memphis Wrestling, the big events on Memphis Wrestling history, the Monday Night Memories, and the Lawler Jack Briscoe Road to the Go, the Al Green, Jackie Fargo hair versus hair match, the Sputnik Monroe Billy Wicks match, the biggest events, nights in the history of Memphis Wrestling. We'll talk about that. We'll have a show next week, Tuesday night. The Tuesday after, I want to remind everybody, and I want to get to that starting on July the 7th, our show, that's a Tuesday, our show will move to Wednesday, July the 8th, because season starts of The Dark Side of the Ring with the premiere of a 2-hour feature on Jeff Jarrett. Then the next week, part 3 of the Jeff Jarrett story. And I've seen some clips, and this will be absolutely tremendous. So starting July 7th, we will not have a Tuesday show, but we'll be here for the next 6 weeks on Wednesday as we review that. So, Michael, do you plan on catching Dark Side of the Ring and then join us on Wednesday to review it?
Absolutely. I think that's going to be that's a hell of a way to kick off Dark Side of the Ring. And it's the first multi-part program that they have done in their series. So I am very much looking forward to it. I'm anxious to see the interaction between Conrad Thompson and his work with Jerry Jarrett and I mean with Jeff Jarrett and how that has played into this as well, because I think that Jeff was always and always has been a great marketer of himself. And I think this is sort of, I won't call it the culmination, but it's definitely a jewel in the crown of Jeff Jarrett on Dark Side of the Ring. I'm praying for one thing. I'm hoping that the 3-part series ends on a very uplifting note, because that's how Jeff Jarrett's career is right now. And I would just hope
redemption. I think it absolutely, and it's a heartfelt, and I lived a lot of it with him, the good, the bad, the ugly. And we both were basically at times in our lives in the situation that he ended up in, and both of us are recovered, and it's one day at a time, but doing good. Of course, they'll start on that July 7th with a two-part of Jeff Jarrett's TNA and telling the TNA story and Jeff's involvement, Jerry's involvement, Dixie Carter's involvement. And I think there'll be good stuff there. And they'll do the 2-hour premiere on the 7th. The next week, episode 3. We'll also hear from the Necro Butcher, Samoan Joe feud, Big Boss Man, the Renegade, Paul Orndorff, Missy Hyatt, and Zach Gowen. I think absolutely Jeff interested in watching that, interested in how they would deal with Missy Hyatt. And I heard, I don't know if we mentioned this last week or not, Michael, but I heard a little preview on Cornette was talking to the producer of Dark Side of the Ring, and I don't know if you saw that episode or not. They were talking in depth about everybody, but they were talking about Paul Orndorff, and he got injured and was in a nursing home, and he was in other businesses outside wrestling, and he got ripped off, and issue with his wife or whatever. Finally, his son, who certainly did a role that I've done in my life, a caregiver for an elderly person. I did it with my mother, did it with my dad as an 18-year-old, did it with Eddie Marlin. It takes a different breed to do that, but it's so worthwhile. But apparently, Paul Orndorff's son ended up checking him out wherever he was and moving him in with him. And so his last days, his son was a big part of that. I'm interested the real human stories, the Jeff Jarrett story and the Paul Orndorff story. And I'm interested in Missy Hyde as all. The rest of the deals I could care less. But I think it's our responsibility to, at least my responsibility, to watch it. These guys work hard at it, putting these together. And so I'm going to give them all a chance.
Well, I think that the two guys that put it together are brilliant in what they do and how they do it. The only thing I've ever disagreed with our Dark Side of the Ring is I've disagreed with the moderator, the narrator, I should say. And I don't think they've gone with the strongest of the people that could narrate those programs. But
I think Cornette and Dutch Mantell would have been better than Chris Jericho. I
agree totally. And Cornette more so than anybody. And that's sort of the only thing. I'm sort of interested in the Missy Hyatt thing because of the connection to Memphis with Eddie. Eddie Gilbert. I think there's a neat story to be told there. I've listened to one of the podcasts that she did talking about her involvement in her marriage to Eddie, and how, and I think Missy has been married multiple times, and she has a soft spot, at least in what she was talking about there, a very soft spot in her heart about Eddie and what a great person he was, what a nice person he was. And I was never married to Eddie Gilbert, but I can tell you this: in working with Eddie Gilbert, I could certainly see where that would be the case, because he was a very, very nice, tremendously talented individual that we lost way too soon.
Absolutely, for sure. And to make Bo happy, this is how we're going to end the show, and we're going to say legendary wrestling.
Who is that scary guy on that thing? God,
that isn't the best picture in the world. I didn't really pay too much attention to it.
I'm like, my wife said it, and she said, "Oh, that's scary." I went, "Yeah, you're right." I love the graphics though, but next time, Bo, please, I'll send you a newer picture or something. Something I might have. I look scary there.
It will come up Friday, June 26th. In the largest city in Alabama, the fastest growing city maybe in the country. Michael will talk about that in just a second. It's at the JC Community Building at 2180 Airport Road Southwest in Huntsville, Alabama. It's this Friday night. It's a big show. Bo sent me the TV. He did a great job of promoting it. It's a 30-minute power half hour. But in that power half hour, he did a great job with commercials. He's really working hard. He said he's never papered or postered a town better than he has this. This is very important because we talk on this show all the time, bring a wrestling back. And he has a great TV station in North Alabama, CW15, being sponsored by the great Group of Fun Radio. He'll have Michael St. John in the house, who is a celebrity in the Huntsville area. I think this is step one, as you never know when you debut in a town, but the word is out, the excitement is out, and it's this Friday night. And before you talk some more about Friday night, just tell the people that if you want to make a Friday trip to Huntsville, it's not. How far is Huntsville from Memphis?
2.5 hours. And
how far is it from Nashville?
It's an hour and a half, and it's an hour and 25 minutes from Birmingham, and it's 2.5, 3 hours from Atlanta, hour and a half from Chattanooga. I'll tell you, it's a neat event. Where I was saying that we hadn't heard anything about the AEW show, that we've been giving away some tickets for this the SSW show Friday night, and we have gotten response about it. And we've gotten response from listeners that are watching the TV on Saturday night. So to me, that connection is being made. I think if we get good weather, which we're supposed to have, it's in a great area of town. It's in John Hunt Park. The JC building was the last building that was run with weekly wrestling in Huntsville. It's a great place. It's air conditioned, plenty of parking, and it's in a very safe area. In fact, my son is on the Huntsville Police Department, and he's going to be at the event because he's part of the Huntsville Police Department. But anyway, it's easy to get to. There's not a lot of traffic. It's easy to get in and to get out. There's 4 ways to get to it, and I think from the logistics standpoint, it's really good. I think from the product that Bo has been showing on TV, I think this is a wrestling company and a wrestling group that is going to appeal to not only the old school fans, but to the families that may have gone to wrestling shows in the past and been disappointed. One of the things I know that I've heard, not with this last AEW show, but the time before, is they had a match that involved thumbtacks and lightning tubes. And there were a lot of kids that were at the Von Braun Center for that event. And boy, I heard, gosh, I mean, they got just lambasted by people that just were sick at their stomach and very turned off about they would do that in front of a lot of kids, and that the language got a little risque, loud, rough. So I think Bo's doing he's hitting all the right buttons, and I think he's going to have a good turnout. Do I think it'll be a sellout? I hope it is, but I think there's going to be a really good turnout to this because the vibe is there. It's a groundswell right now, but I think it's well timed, and he has some talent. There's some talent in this group that will go on to bigger and better things. Not least to mention the world's ladies champion, who happens to be his wife. She's good. She's good. She's good and getting better.
Hey, and one thing I want to add into this, because you were mentioning about that graphic and how great it was, except you didn't like it.
I appreciate it.
You didn't like the picture. However, Bo will always switch the heat. Always, right or wrong, will always switch the heat. He won't take blame for nothing. So here he is saying, my graphic guy picked the picture. And I guarantee you, knowing Bo James, he liked that picture because he would have because he's controlling a lot more than I ever was. And that's not a bad thing saying that. That's not a knock. It's just I would let my graphic, like James Estes was basically, and Brandon Baxter did most of my graphics because I couldn't do my own graphics. Now, Bo, I know, is pretty good at doing graphics. He says my graphic guy picked the picture. Well, I don't know if I believe that or not. How about you, Michael?
I believe it. If Bo said it, I believe it. But
you don't know him very well. He's a wrestling guy. You don't think you hadn't figured out he's a bullshitter, and I certainly am. So I'm not knocking being a bullshitter. You have to in the wrestling business. A wrestling promoter absolutely have to be. But I believe he could have found a better picture. But I probably used that picture myself, to tell you the truth.
Well, to no offense, and let me tell you, the plaque hangs in a very prominent place in my office at my radio station in the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame plaque. But you didn't do me any favors picking that picture either.
Yeah, man. See,
you didn't picture. You told me Lawler's son picked that picture. You told me you didn't pick that picture.
No, because I let other people do the stuff. Here's the thing. We're seeing the true Michael St. John people. The true Michael St. John right here. Richard Hood is back in the house. This has been a great show with a lot of feedback, and for the most part, you guys stayed on the subject talking about bookers. Final word, final take, and I got to go to bed.
All right. Well, thank you, Randy, again for that. I'm sorry my thing ran late. I didn't know it was going to run that late. But let me say something. And first of all, I appreciate all the kudos and what you've done for me and what Bo's done for me and Tony Richards and even Jimmy Cornette and all those guys. And I appreciate it. I'm not a star. I'm just the guy behind the microphone with the face for radio that ended up on doing wrestling shows. And I did something and do something that I love. I'm going Friday night because I love it. Joshua says, I'm coming, Papa. So I guess he's going to be around with me, but his mother's got to approve it first. But this is a sport, and what I do and what we do here on Tuesday night is a labor of love. And I know that may be a trite phrase and something that's overused, but golly, Pete, it's so true. I know in Randy's case, in Pat's case, certainly in my case, and Coach when he's with us, and Dr. Robinson, and when, of course, Tony Richards, this is a labor of love. This is a passion that we love. It gives me, I tell Randy all the time, I've told Pat this, it gives me 2 hours on Tuesday night to take a deep breath, recharge the batteries, come off of my radio world, get into this world, and interact with some of the greatest people I've ever known. Some of them I know in person, some of them I don't, but just watching these comments, they've got to be the greatest wrestling fans in the world or that I've ever encountered, certainly. So that's my last take, is a big thank you, and a big thank you to Bo for what he's put me over for. I mean, I think it's overkill, but I certainly appreciate it. And Randy, for you and all the great things you do. A lot of people that watch this show don't realize what it takes to put this on. And good old Adam Dunn in the background, I know he's he's done some stuff with us here at the radio stations, and he's got a whole new world, a whole different world that he runs in with his job and his life. But there is so much that goes into putting this on, and I am so happy to be a part of it. And again, just a million thank yous to you, to Pat Trammell, who's become a good friend. I'm worried about Pat. I'm not going to lie to you. And that's one of the reasons I even called him yesterday. I want to check on him because I know he has been having some physical struggles, and that's not the Pat I know. And then we got to get him up and at 100% well. And if it's his back, we got to get his back fixed. And I have such admiration for him. One of the smartest minds I've met in the past 30 years, without a doubt. And and a big thank you to the people that put up with this and watch this and are here week after week. I really respect you, and thank you for the passion that you give the sport of professional wrestling. And we wouldn't be around without you. So that's sort of my last take, and I hope I didn't get too winded on it, but I get winded just about every time I talk. But thank you again, Randy, and for the entire crew. Thank you very, very much for allowing me to be a part of it.
Pat Rose just sent a thing, and the next evolution in professional wrestling, the next second generation wrestler. I don't know. I'm sure you met Pat Rose's son, Ty, sing the national anthem for us at the Hall of Fame thing and did a fantastic job. He is wrestling now, and Pat is so proud of him. Also, Bo has comments for Michael. He said, Michael, hundreds of posters and 3,000 postcards out in the Huntsville area with the Fun Radio logo on it. So that is a good thing. As Bo, smart promoter, and giving credit to his media partners for sure. And I'm a big fan of that. And I think that's very important as well. This has been fun. Adam Dunn was traveling for work today, Michael, and I found out 30 minutes before the show, and I apologize. I think I just made one screw up on production today, so that's better than I usually do when I have to produce a show. But then certainly Pat helped the first half when I was doing production stuff, and Michael when he came in. So I was glad that you talked as much as you did talk, because I had other stuff to do, and we missed Michael. I mean, we missed Michael that first hour, but we also missed Adam Dunn that missed the whole show, and we went 22 minutes late. But this has been fun, and Michael, we'll see you next Tuesday. It will be our last Tuesday show for a while. We'll be on Wednesday for about 6 weeks or 7 weeks, something like that. And so I'm looking forward to that as well. And I want to make sure that I'm getting all the comments. And Ty Rose this is interesting, Michael, that his son Ty is opening for Struggle Jennings Friday night, big show his son Ty's opening for him. I've heard of Shooter Jennings. Is Shooter Jennings and Struggle Jennings the same person? Do you have any idea, Mike?
That's the first time. I'm sorry, I'm out of touch on that. I couldn't answer that.
Well, I appreciate you being with us. This has been fun. The kid, go ahead and let's give credit to the young man that was signed for college, and let's say his name right now. The event you did before you came on the show.
Stafford Willis, an offensive lineman for the Arabian Knights, the Arab high school football team. He'll be a senior this year, and he is only the third Division I commitment that this high school has had in the 27, now going on 28 years I've called play-by-play for. And he and his family, a wonderful family, a very faith-based family. They had the event at the gymnasium at the school, and they had probably good 300 people there. And he announced he had University of Virginia, Virginia Tech, South Carolina, UCLA, and Alabama to pick from, and I bet you can't guess who he picked.
Who they picked?
Alabama.
Alabama.
So they got him a good one. And congratulations to him, and certainly congratulations to his mom and dad and brothers for being such the strong. Anytime you see a kid do this, a lot of times you see them and the parents are, they're not part of a group, a family and this is a family that went through this recruiting process together, and a very loving family and a supportive family, and couldn't ask for better folks. So congratulations. And I can only hope Matthew has a successful senior season and goes on and does well at his college of choice, the University of Alabama.
For Pat Trammell, for the great Michael St. John, this is Randy Hales. We missed out on Dunn. Good luck to Bo James. And again, I am trying to think this as Pat Rhodes says that struggle and shooter's not the same. And Bo says struggle is a cousin. And I'm a big Waylon Jennings fan. Love country music. And of course, Michael has a country music station. I bet you don't program it.
But that my wife programs and does a hell of a job with.
And I heard it's a popular station there in Huntsville.
It's very, very much so. Very much so. And it's hers. I'm telling you, all I do is she tells me what to play, and she does the advertising, and I just produce it. That's it. And that's very successful because of that. Because of her.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody. The audience hit a home run tonight. I appreciate your participation. Guys, we're out of here again for Michael. Randy Hill's here. Good night. We're talking Memphis wrestling.
You'll see America's favorite sport on WHBQ television.